Pompey Sound, your hourly update from Fratton Park, sponsored by Piglet's Pantry, the home of award-winning and handmade food on the South Coast.
Adrian Segicic is already making waves at Pompey, with the summer signing netting a goal and setting up another in his first 2 pre-season matches. The 20-year-old Sydney FC import wasted no time showing what he's made of, scoring a sweet left-footed strike just 13 minutes into his debut against Woking. His standout performance earned him man of the match honours in the 2-0 win. He followed that up the next evening at Farnborough, setting up Harry Clout's 62nd-minute goal with a smart square ball from the right wing, helping Pompey cruise to a 5-0 victory over the national south side. His high-energy pressing and knack for finding dangerous positions has caught everyone's eye, including boss John Massinho, who's thrilled with what he's seen so far. SEGGS has hit the ground running. That goal against Woking was class, but what really impressed me was his work rate off the ball. He led our press brilliantly and showed real quality in front of goal too.
So this guy is looking like a real prospect. Well, he's not just a prospect, a real player. And it has to be said to people who feel that Pompey are rather slow out of the blocks with close season recruitment, that we'd rather have a couple or 3 players at this stage of the highest quality than 5 or 6 journeymen who are little better than simple like-for-like replacements with those who have moved on. Obviously, there are standouts amongst the loan system. We aren't going to be able to bring in anybody, perhaps with quite the potential or class of Freddie Potts, but you don't know. You can't rule it out because we haven't got into the loan market, which is an important place for Pompey to dress up the squad. And that will happen, but that will happen later. Remember, there are another 6 weeks to go later in the transfer window. Is there a danger in overestimating what we can expect from Segicic once the season for real gets underway? There is a slight possibility that some may do that. I mean, he's not going to turn out to be Messi. He can be very, 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 very good, but he won't have a magic wand, and he's going to have to work that much harder in the Championship than he has done, I understand, no disrespect, in the A-League in Australia and friendlies against part-timers in the UK. He's going to have to work hard. He's going to have to be even that much better. But John Massinho, for one, is a very good judge of footballers, isn't he? And he reckons this guy is something. Man of the match. OK, it was against a team of players who haven't made the professional ranks, but they are still nevertheless extremely competent, extremely capable, and wanted to do their best against these Flash Harrys from the Championship, and they couldn't lay a glove on him. So he's very promising. We know what we're getting with John Swift. If Kovneshki, I do beg his pardon. I will, when I find out what the actual pronunciation is, I will work on it. Kovnechki is the closest I can come at the moment, is clearly a class player too. And there's a bad piece in one of the newspapers today saying that Andre Dozel's position at Pompey is under threat if he comes in, and it even goes so far as to say that Dozel had a mixed season last season. All the fans I've spoken to have said exactly the same thing. Yes, he didn't look a great prospect when he started, and there were people who were saying, what are we doing taking a QPR reject on? Well, Massinho and the recruitment team saw something in him and they got it out of him. Because before the season was halfway old, he was commanding a first-team place in midfield and deserving of it. And he even scored a little cheeky goal, which is always icing on the cake for a player who's fundamentally a holding midfield player. The Hungarian can play, we're told, at 6, 8 and 10, which is further proof that John Massinho wants to work towards a side of great flexibility, versatility, and ultimately the ability to make changes during the game of their own volition. If they judge a situation needs them in midfield more than at fullback, which is where they started the game, then they put that into their game. They don't necessarily become midfield players, but they know when to create availability, when to do covering in midfield, when to go forward and do that. Ditto the forwards. If they feel that midfield or even their fullback needs helping out, they know how to do it and when to do it. and don't need to be shouted at from the technical area, which, by the way, I still prefer to call the dugout because it's such a lovely term. Anyway, what we're saying is, as far as recruitment goes this summer, so far, so pretty good. John Messino, on which part of the pitch Pompey are going to be concentrating their efforts to recruit further?
I think there's a couple of obvious gaps at the top end of the pitch on the right. That would definitely be an area we'd like to strengthen in. We've also been speaking about the likes of Zach and Terry filling in the middle of the park, so the middle of park, they're the obvious places. Messino has also tackled the prospect of looking to bring in a new striker before the close of the transfer window. He believes a new number 9 isn't a priority but is a, quote, potential area to strengthen, with Colby Bishop and Thomas Waddingham the out-and-out strikers in the senior group at present. Messino added, a striker is not a priority for us at the moment. We've obviously got Colby and Tom. We have operated with 3 centre-forwards in the past and more when Colby had his heart surgery. It's a potential area to strengthen but not a priority. We're really pleased with where Colby's at, despite him not being able to train at the moment. That's nothing to worry about. We're really pleased with where Tom's at as well, because he's looking sharp and picked up where he left off last season with that positive performance against Coventry and goal against West Brom.
So, John Messino's pronouncement that he is prioritising getting someone tip-top out wide on the right to do the business obviously brings Abu Kamara back into contention, in our minds at least, yet again. And today, to just add some fuel to this fire, Rich Hughes is saying, making it quite clear that they are in contact with Hull and they are talking to Hull about Abu Kamara. But they're finding the owner of Hull stubborn and digging his feet in about not wanting to offload any players at low price. A number of clubs, it seems, it's being reported up there, northeast, that a number of clubs hoped that they would be able to do a little bit of cherry picking at Hull, as has happened in the past with other clubs who've got into financial difficulty. And Hull are banned from transfer activity, buying anybody basically, for the next 3 windows. They can pick up free transfers and they can pick up loan players, as I understand it, but they can't buy anybody. Whether or not this means that they want to sell depends on the bank balance of the owners, and also whether they are willing to effectively lose a little bit of face by going public on the fact that they haven't handled things very well on or off the pitch. But bottom line on this, we are still interested in Abu Kamara, and we are still talking to Hull about Abu Kamara. Whether we've got any other tip-top, 5-star, gold-plated, wide right players in mind, only time will tell. But we have it confirmed that we're interested in a right winger, and we also have it confirmed that we are talking to Hull about Kamara.
John Messino's master plan of transforming Pompey into the UK's first total football team is taking further shape as the close season develops. Highlights of the transformation last season included Connor Ogilvie doubling as a left-back and a striker, and frequently remaining up front, having joined in an attack. When the ball headed the other way towards the Pompey goal, Ogilvie was often seen remaining as the highest Pompey player forward. Ogilvie also spent part of last season as a central defender. Right-back Jordan Williams started several games for Pompey as a central defender. And the now highly popular Pompey chant of "Terry Devlin, he plays where he wants," is a terrace-based tribute to the versatility and flexibility required of the squad to alternate positions not just in their starting lineup, but as the game progresses. Against Farnborough, Zach Swanson played in central midfield, confirming Messino's quest to give players experience of playing in different positions. If a moment arises during a match when it's necessary for them to change positions, they have the ability and the experience to do so. After the game, Messino confirmed that he sees Zach primarily as a right-back, but a right-back who could operate in central midfield at points in the game when required.
We all know a little bit about total football. I think almost all of us know not very much about total football. We've heard of it. It is described by one authority as a tactical system in which any outfield player can take over the role of any other player in the team. A player who moves out of his position is replaced by another from his team, thus retaining the team's intended organisational structure. In this fluid system, no outfield player is fixed in a predetermined role. Anyone can successfully play as an attacker, a midfielder and a defender. The only player who stays in a specified position is the goalkeeper. And with goalkeepers going walkabout nowadays, I suspect that even that aspect of this definition of total football is under review. This definition goes on. Total football's tactical success depends largely on the adaptability of each footballer within the team. In particular, the ability to quickly switch positions depending on the on-field situation. So a right back becomes a right midfield player, becomes a right winger, possibly even doubles as a striker. A central midfield player can drop back to cover the left back if the left back goes forward to join in the attack. Now, who started it? Well, we all associate it, those of us who are old enough, associate it with the great Dutch teams of the early 70s, spearheaded by the legendary Johan Cruyff, who encouraged his teammates to always be aware of which space in the pitch, on the pitch, to stand in, and to develop what was described as spatial awareness, an understanding of everything that's going on around you, and in particular the vulnerabilities of the other side, where they had weaknesses. Each of the players on your side should be analysing where those weaknesses are and how best you can exploit them. Cruyff is also famous for having strong views and often voiced opinions about when to stand still. Now, the manager who is credited most with total football is a Dutch manager called Rinus Michels, and he introduced it at Ajax, where they won a heck of a lot of a lot of trophies. I think they were European champions, Champions League equivalent in the day, 3 times. But what's interesting is I've just uncovered that this kind of football was actually invented before then in England, in Burnley. I almost said of all places, by a Burnley manager, a legendary Burnley manager. What was his name? Harry Potts. Harry Potts came up with the idea that all players playing in all positions or able to play in all positions would mean that the team could develop tactical flexibility and go from WM formation. They could go from that to having 5 in midfield if that was what was necessary during the course of the game. And because the manager can't always transmit those thoughts to all of his players when they're on the pitch halfway through the first half, it's down to the players to have the ability and the understanding, as well as the technical skills to execute changes in position. Is this the way Pompey are going? If they are, it's going to be an exciting ride.